Hello, Rentman users. In this video, we demonstrate how to create, request approval, send, and complete purchase orders within Rentman. First, what's a purchase order and why is it useful? A purchase order, or PO, is a financial document created by a buyer to formally request goods or services from a supplier. It includes the contents, price, and delivery date, and serves as a binding agreement. In your case, you're the buyer, sending this request to your supplier. When the supplier later sends an invoice, your finance team can use the purchase order number to cross-reference the details and ensure everything matches the original agreement. All right, let's dive into Rentman and get started. In your workspace, you can create a purchase order for two types of costs: additional costs and subrent costs. Just select the cost in your project to add it to a purchase order, or do it directly from the subrental slip. Let's create a purchase order for this subrental. Click this button, and you will be prompted to either create a new purchase order or attach the cost to an existing one. In this example, we will choose to create a brand new purchase order. You'll be taken to the purchase order form, which has two tabs: Costs and Data. Let's start with the Cost tab. This tab shows the type of cost and the linked amount to the purchase order. Of course, you can add multiple costs to the same purchase order. The exact equipment of our subrent will be shown in the purchase order document we create later on. Now, over to the Data tab. This tab gives you an overview of the purchase order's details and current status. You can fill in number series, purchase order date, delivery date, and description. We also have a button here to create purchase order documents. We'll come back to that later. As you can see, our supplier is automatically taken over from our subrent. This contact is responsible for supplying the services or goods. The supplier of the purchase order and subrent should always match. Let's look at the Insights section. Here you'll see the purchase order status. Currently, it is in concept status since we just created this purchase order. Next action reveals the next step for this purchase order. We'll come back to this later when we approve this purchase order. And next to this is the Cancel button. Select that if you want to outright end this purchase order. Just a heads up, this action is irreversible. In the Details section, you'll find key information about this purchase order, including the cost comparison field. This will show if the total costs match, exceed, or are below the approved costs, but only after the purchase order is approved. Lastly, we have the purchase order history. As you work through the purchase order, this log will fill up with all the important actions and updates that has taken place. You can always come back here to review what's happened. Let's go back to the Insights sections and request an approval. When you request approval for a purchase order, pop-up will appear where you can choose who to notify and include a custom message. This doesn't restrict others from approving it. Any user with the right user role settings can approve the purchase order. Let's send it to Jordan for approval and see what it looks like on his end. We are now in Jordan's view where he sees all purchase orders. The notification just came in, and we open the purchase order. As you can see, the status has updated, the history is logged, and an Approve and Decline button appeared. Let's approve this purchase order. Once approved, pay attention to the cost comparison field in the Insights section. It now gives us a quick financial overview that the total purchase order costs are equal to the approved costs. Let's make things a bit more tricky and edit the linked cost to exceed the approved cost to see what happens. As you can see, because the linked cost is now higher, the cost comparison field updates to reflect that. We are not allowed to generate a purchase order document right now and need to reapprove the purchase order. However, let's put the subrent cost back to what it was for now. Now that our total costs match again with the approved costs, we can generate and send the purchase order document to our supplier. The document also outlines the contents of the subrent, so the supplier knows exactly which equipment to provide. After sending, the purchase order status automatically changes to Marked as Sent. Mark the purchase order as complete once the corresponding invoice has been paid. Back in the project, we see that this subrent is now linked to a purchase order. Our purchase order also appears in the project's Purchase Order tab, and that's a wrap. we've successfully created our first purchase order. If you are looking for additional resources about purchase order, please check out our support center.